$38,000 to fix it. The boat's worth $31. The mechanic writing that estimate has done it 100 times, and he'll tell you what nobody on the sales lot will. He'd never have bought this boat in the first place. That bill is the whole reason this video exists. Because the man who wrote it, the fellow with 40 years of other people's boats up on his lift, does not buy the boats that generate estimates like that one. He's watched them come in on the hook, one after another, and he learned the lesson the expensive way, on somebody else's dime. Meanwhile, down the road, there's another man whose whole living depends on you buying exactly the boat the mechanic won't. The new boat salesman, payment plan already printed, the words redundancy and resale rehearsed. He sells the boat that pays his mortgage. The mechanic buys the boat that never once darkened his repair bay. Two different lists. Only one of them was written by a man with nothing to sell you. That's the list I want to build with you today. 6 used cabin cruisers a mechanic would actually spend his own money on. The ones he's watched not break. The ones whose parts he can still buy off a shelf. The ones he can reach every bolt on without a laptop or a dealer's blessing. Worst to best, cheapest peace of mind up to the boat he'd drive out of state to find. Stay with me, because the last two are the ones he'd never let go of. First, why any of this holds water. Pre-owned boats are running close to 78% of every boat that changes hands in this country right now. Better than 3 out of every 4. That is where the whole market lives right now. And the used ones sell in about 139 days on average, while the new ones sit 279, the better part of a year, waiting on somebody to sign a loan at near 8%. Read that gap the right way. The new boat isn't slow to sell because it's bad. It's slow because the people who did the math already walked to the used side of the lot. Now the part a mechanic knows in his hands that a buyer only learns from a bill. On a modern boat, the expensive parts are locked. A control module is a 4-figure part on its cheapest day, and you can't fit it yourself. You wait for the dealer, and you pay what the dealer says. A pod drive that clips a log is a haul out and a 5-figure repair before your hands stop shaking. On the boats in this list, the most expensive thing under the hatch is usually a filter that crosses to a truck part, the one you read off a chart and buy for $10 instead of $50. Same filter. The M on the marine box just stands for markup. That is the whole game a mechanic plays with his own wallet. He isn't chasing the newest hull or the cleanest gel coat. He's chasing the boat he can still feed, still reach, and still fix 10 years from now, when the outfit that sold the fancy one has quit answering the phone. We start at number 6 with the Silverton 34 convertible. Jersey built, thousands of them. The boat you've walked past 100 times without a second look. And that is exactly why the mechanic likes it. Under the hatch sits a pair of Crusader 350s, small block Chevy at heart, the most worked on engine in the history of the water. A well-kept 350 gives you a good many honest seasons, and when one finally tires, a fresh long block is a weekend job and a fraction of what it costs just to diagnose a sealed modern drive. Every gasket, every water pump, every cap and rotor crosses straight to a part you can hold in your hand at an auto counter by this afternoon. A clean one runs you from the low 20s into the low 40s. And there are enough of them that you never have to overpay, walk away from a bad one, and 3 more are listed by Friday. Here's the one thing to know before you fall in love. The transom on some of these is cord, so you get a moisture meter on it, and you tap it first. Do that, and you've got a 34-foot cruiser you can keep alive with a socket set and a Saturday morning. It isn't the prettiest boat on the dock. It's the one still running when the pretty ones are up on stands waiting on a part. Number 5, and this is where I stop and defend a boat the purists love to sneer at, the Sea Ray 340 sedan bridge. Say the name Sea Ray to a certain kind of old salt and he'll wrinkle his nose. Production boat, he'll say, built by the acre. And here's the part he misses. Sea Ray built more boats than just about anybody alive. And that works flat out in your favor, because it means nothing on this one is ever unobtainium. Whatever lets go, somebody 3 states over has the part, the diagram, and a form thread walking you through the fix. The 3.4 carries twin 454 big blocks, 7.4 liters of cast iron that's been powering trucks and boats since before some of you were born. And there's a mechanic in every county who's rebuilt one. Twin staterooms, a fly bridge, a real galley, a floating cabin you can live a whole weekend on. Clean ones run the high teens into the 40s. The salesman who talks down the used one is the same man who couldn't find a part for his own new boat without without booking a service appointment. That is the boat everyone underrates, sitting there being easy to fix in a world that forgot how. Number 4 is the Chris-Craft Catalina 350. And if you ever wondered what roomy actually feels like, it's this. 35 feet that live like 40. 2 staterooms, 2 heads, 6'4" headroom. A salon wide enough to lose people in. Chris-Craft was building boats before half these brands had a logo, and the hull is solid hand-laid glass, the kind that takes a bump and shrugs it off. Power is twin-gas V8s, 350S or 454S depending on the year. Every one of them a block your local guy already knows cold. And the price is where the eyebrows go up. Clean, honest ones trade in the teens and 20s, because the market never learned to love a boxy old aft cabin the way it loves a sleek new one. Their loss. You are buying a shipwright's boat at a used pickup price with an engine room a grown man can stand up in and turn a wrench without skinning a knuckle. The people who dismiss it are staring at the boxy lines. The mechanic's looking at that walk-around engine room, and he's already doing the math. And doing the math is the exact thing that separates the folks who buy well from the folks who get buried. That's the whole reason I put everything I know into the Boats Worth Buying playbook: how to read a hull, how to price a repair before it's yours, and how to spot the boat that's about to hand you an invoice bigger than itself. Think of it as a small number up front so that big number never lands on your bench. Links in the description, and there's a QR code on screen if you'd rather scan it. And if a boat isn't worth buying, the book tells you that too. No harm done. Number 3, and we drop a few feet to the Bertram 28 Flybridge, the smallest boat on this list, and pound for pound maybe the toughest. This is the best-selling Bertram ever built, cut from the same deep V bloodline as the legendary 31, riding on solid glass laid up back when nobody knew how thin they could safely go, so they went thick. 23 degrees of dead rise, an 11-foot beam that's wide for 28 feet, and a hull that takes a snotty inlet and asks for another. Power is twin gas inboards. The later boats ran 260 horse Mercs. The earlier ones Ford 351s. Simple, mechanical, fixable in your sleep. You'll find them from around $10,000 for a project up to the low 50s for a cherry one, and the good ones hold their price because the people who own Bertrams know exactly what they're sitting on. Talk to the men who run them and you hear the same story. The solid glass hull outlasts 3 sets of engines and 2 owners, and there's no cord hull down there to soak up water and rot on you. Run one aground and you back her off and finish your coffee. The rest of the 28-footers are already up on the trailer. This one just keeps being a Bertram. Quick thing before the last 2, because these are the good ones. If this is the kind of straight talk you came here for, tap that like button and hit subscribe so the next one finds you. It genuinely helps a small channel like this one. Alright, the 2 a mechanic would never let out of his sight. Number 2, the Californian 34 LRC. And here the gas boats step aside, because up at the top, it's diesel. And diesel is where a mechanic really tips his hand. This is one of the few trawler-style cruisers ever built on American soil. Solid glass, twin Perkins 4 cylinders turning slow and easy. The same farm and tractor iron that's been running since the Eisenhower administration and shows no sign of quitting. 2 staterooms, a private aft cabin, big bright windows, and legs for days. She'll idle along at 7, 8 knots burning right around 3 gallons an hour and carry you 800 miles on a tank. The parts are boring, which on a boat is the highest compliment I know how to pay. There are whole outfits that exist for nothing but keeping these old Perkins alive, stocking the odd bits, crossing the rest to a shelf part over the phone, so you're never once out picking through a junkyard for a 30-year-old casting. Clean ones sit from the high 30s to around 60, and every dollar of it buys an engine you will almost certainly never wear out. The salesman can't easily finance you into one of these, and he'd rather you didn't ask. A mechanic asks anyway. He knows a Perkins doesn't care what year the calendar says. And number 1, the boat a mechanic would drive across 3 states to buy with his own money. The Mainship 34, the Mark III. Single engine, 1. A single Perkins 6.354. The mechanical straight 6, a whole generation of mechanics learned on. Sitting in an engine room so open you can walk a full circle around it and lay a hand on every part that matters. No second engine to double every bill. Nothing electronic to chase down on a Sunday. Nothing under that hatch you can't reach, read, and fix yourself. She's semi-displacement, with a full keel and a skeg guarding the running gear. So she sips about 2 gallons an hour at 7 knots and forgives the kind of grounding that would total a modern boat. Clean early ones run the 30s into the 50s, and there are enough loyal owners keeping records that you can still find one with a real logbook under the settee. That is not a boat with an engine in it. That's an engine somebody built a cabin around, priced it like a used pickup, and left sitting there for whoever's smart enough to want it. What would I buy with my own money? 2 of them, honestly. If I wanted a boat I could climb aboard tomorrow and keep alive forever, it's that Mainship 34. 1 Perkins, 1 logbook, done. And if the family needed the room and I wanted my weekends without a car payment stapled to them, I'd take the Chris Craft Catalina 350 and spend the difference on fuel and good years. Neither one of them will ever hand me an invoice bigger than the boat. That right there is the whole test. The salesman builds his list out of whatever pays him this month. The mechanic builds his out of 40 years of watching which boats came back on the hook and which ones never did. One of those men has to sell you something tomorrow. The other one already owns the boat he'd pick for you. Learn to read a hull the way he reads a repair bill, and that invoice never comes looking for you. Next time, we get down under the hatch and settle the engines themselves.